Oh, a lot easier for the back wheels. Oh no! Mine's broken! No, look at this. I'm not making this up. Look at it. It's broken. You can see the thingamajig. Look at that. Oh, this is breaking my heart. Look at this now. Oh, we're not traveling to 2015. No. Oh, that sucks. It's broken. Now I gotta deal with Sideshow for replacement. Look at that mess. Oh, this one works. This one works. And let's check out the front one. Oh, God, that sucks. I gotta deal with that. This one works. Oh, no! This one's broken, too. Oh, you've gotta...
Well, serves him right. He didn't read the instructions. How dare he? Everybody knows it's pull, up, up, down, down, left, right. He doesn't know what he's doing. I think he broke it. Yep, that is it. He broke it. He should have pulled twice, back, forth, then level it out. Yep. It was him. He did it.
What's this? This isn't fair. I pre-ordered the DeLorean too. He gets it before me? This isn't right. I wouldn't have broken my DeLorean if I would have gotten mine.
It's been a very chaotic week for me explaining myself to the community as to what could have happened to the original unboxing to the Back to the Future DeLorean Mark II from Hot Toys. I've been on the offense, I've been on the defense. At one point I thought maybe I did break it, then at one point I felt I did not break it. I still stand by my original opinion that it was Hot Toys' own fault and the R&D and the manufacturing of the DeLorean and the possible shortcuts and even the temperature when the vehicle is actually shipped from overseas to US. There's just so many theories out there. But what I will do and say right now is that I'm not taking any chances. Sideshow sent me a replacement. This is the second unboxing, and first thing is first, we are going to inspect this baby. We are going to do a 100-point inspection. We're going to analyze, enhance, zoom in. This little protruding little cable here that kind of looks like a pinched nerve. Is this something to be concerned about? I don't know. I placed the DeLorean upside down on a pillow. I brought out my high beam flashlight, did some serious 4K blasting, used extreme caution. I mean, I'm talking like surgeon's hands at this point, inspecting everything. I'm not taking any chances. There's a good possibility that I may not be eligible for another replacement up until June if this vehicle does not meet the right conditions. Now, I did find micro fractures, and I did take photos, and I did alert Sideshow. Look carefully here at that little brass pin there. I think the engineering issue is the pressure point from that little brass point right there, as I'm pointing to right there. I'm going to test out the battery compartment, even though I'm going to be using the USB plug for most of the display on this specific vehicle. Still, I would just prefer to have the batteries. This is the electrical check. I want to make sure all the wheels light up, the thrusters, the time circuits, everything. I will leave no stone unturned. I just, at this point, I don't trust the vehicle. But I just, it's to the point like, well, is it just those little micro fractures I found? Everything else seems to be checking out. I think it's this is a good one. Other than this little tube piece right here, which pops in with pressure point, I think we are in the clear. First thing is first, can I hack in the power management system? I had a theory that maybe if I just removed all these screws in the front, underneath the front hood, I can get into it. That was a failure, right? Next is preventative maintenance. Gorilla Glue, which is just another fancy version of an epoxy resin. When this stuff is applied, it turns into, it's like concrete, it's like adamantium, liquid adamantium. I'm gonna start applying some preventative maintenance, but what happens with my attention deficit is that I have an epiphany. Well, wait a minute, if I'm gonna start coating these axles, wouldn't it just be easier to just get rid of these wheels? I mean, at one point, I am going to switch out and modify the existing lighting system because I don't like that warm 3000 type Kelvin that they got in there. I want some cool light. What you see on there, that chewing gum, is sticky tacky. Sticky tacky. Apply it to the hubcap to remove it, and it's actually pretty easy to remove these wheels. Get rid of the hubcap, get the screw, and then you see the brains there, little circuit there, and this is kind of neat. I wish the vents were more open to let in more light. You can kind of see that right there. But this is clever. At first I thought this is clever, and then as I spent more time on this vehicle, I realized that this design, the way the LEDs are placed on there, and this frosty acrylic disc is poor because it kind of throttles the amount of light. Should have been more of a clear acrylic, but I understand that they probably chose this for durability. Now, a couple of these hubcaps are going to be difficult. Use the old glue stick. Folks, if you do not have a hot gun and you're a toy collector, this is going to be your best friend. I used my hot gun throughout the modification of this DeLorean. Give it a few minutes, pops right out. I'm telling you, it's a lifesaver. Let's get back to the little disc there. Hot gun. The LED strip is glued on, and using the hot gun, I'm kind of just heating up the existing hot glue. That way I can peel away the cheapo LEDs. I think these are the SMDs. These are the everyday LEDs. I'm going to be using Cobb LEDs. C-O-B, Cobb. They they use 5 volts, and this strip here of LEDs right there actually tells you already that it's 5 volts. This little paper thing that was on the disc, and if you look at flip it over. Oh, by the way, if you have a magnet, this is going to be your best friend. This will hold all your screws. And like I had mentioned before, the strip, 5 volts right there. So this gives me hope. Well, cool. My Cobb LEDs, they run on 5 volts. So this, perhaps maybe I can use the existing power management system and just swap out these little shoddy LEDs and get brighter thrusters. Now this right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top cover, and I don't know whether there's a paper there. In fact, I have a theory that maybe it was designed to not let out so much light and could have backfired. I don't know. It's just a theory. But I'm going to be painting this disc. Going back, applied the globs of Gorilla Glue, letting it dry. Again, once the stuff hardens, it's more of a preventative maintenance. It may not look pretty when it's wet and gooey, but it'll help keep the axles more durable. Chrome paint underneath the top of the wheel. That's going to help reflect a lot more light downward, since the bottom of the acrylic disc there is foggy. It kind of throttles the illumination, which again, I think it's a poor design. Now the existing LEDs, I just didn't know really what to do. I'm like, well, I guess I can snip it, right? Or maybe I can reuse it, recycle it maybe. So this is my working theory here, or design, that the existing old LEDs, maybe I can just stick them underneath and just let the glue, just let that go. All right, following morning, the top of the disc, I spray painted it black, and then underneath it, it is the reflective chrome spray paint. It's just a generic spray paint that includes the primer, so kind of reflects the light. That's going to be helpful when I attach the cob LEDs. These here, I'm going to keep those there for now. At this point during the mod, I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to keep those existing lights or swap them out with cob. Now, this is just a preliminary little test look here, just to see what it would look like, right? But then I made a terrible discovery that the power management system is only sending about 3 volts actually less than 3 volts of electricity to each of the wheel wells. That's not going to be super bright for my cob LEDs. I want white, hot, bright light coming out of these wheels. So I'm going to have to use an external power source. Now, I already traveled into the future and I prepped up my cob LED strips. I've soldered them, used 30 gauge wiring, and I've made 4 of these little bands right there. Kind of see it there. And the idea is that you can curl them up and place them in the wheel, kind of like a spiral, like so. And a little micro wire on there. And then once they're plugged in, I mean, this thing is super duper bright. That's what I want. Not those warm, and they're not bright either. It's like that warm color, and they're just not bright enough. But with my cob LEDs, I'm pumping in 5 volts, and they're super duper bright. Mr. Fusion has already been prepped up. Instead of the white light, I'm going to go with the blue radiated fusion there. There you go, right there. And then the top canister, I believe I added some glow-in-the-dark resin just to give it just a unique look. Now, this is the Mark 1, and while the vehicle was drying, all the stuff I'm doing for the Mark 2, I was able to use my Mark 1 and just kind of use it just to test out some of my theories. And one theory which I ended up using or moving forward through in this video is that I wanted a roll or just an amount of USB cable that can fit in the back seat right there. That way I can plug it into a wall or plug it into a battery pack and so forth. And the back port right there is where I'm going to drill. I'm going to use the existing conduit on here, which is where I'm going to snake the power cords from each of the wheels. So it should work. I'm in theory, right? It may protrude around the edge, but that's okay though, because this is more of a time machine that was designed and built in a garage. So testing out the USB cable, and it seems to work. Now let's get back to the wheel here, and I need to test and make sure that there's not too much light bleed. I figure there's going to be a little bit, maybe through the center of the axle, but for the most part, though, I applied 4 coats, 2 coats of the black paint on top, 2 coats of the chrome silver paint underneath to help reflect the majority of that light back out, and that's giving me that cool super fusion bright thruster light, which is what I want. I don't want the existing light that was included. I'm not going to use acrylic paint for the silver screws. I'm just going to use a Sharpie. I don't want any of the globs of the acrylic paint to go inside the center, and it makes it difficult to unscrew if I ever have to go back and change something. I'm going to pop this on here like so, and I'm going to attach it back to the axle to have the wire through the back. I'm going to try to fish it through the back, and you'll see how it works. And I'm not. Hopefully at this point I was a little bit worried because I thought maybe when the wheel is attached I would kind of pinch it, like a pinch nerve. I can't believe how easy this. It feels just a lot easier to remove these wheels than the actual Mark 1 when I did the conversion for the Mark 1. Hubcap it's kept by pressure tension there, and this is me just conducting the test, making sure that it all works. And at this point, the Gorilla Glue, it's probably about 70-80% dry. That's why it still has that wet look. I'm not too worried about it because I'm going to end up painting over it when I'm finally done. Now, this is something that I discovered. The Mark II's passenger seat doesn't have as much space as the Mark 1. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So it looks like they did some R&D design here. Mark 1's passenger seat is pushed up forward to the console, and then the Mark II is pushed back. So there's very little space. I'm assuming they did this so that the figures can fit in more comfortably. That's something I didn't catch the first time. Mr. Fusion Oh, I won't be drilling a hole for Mr. Fusion. I don't think it's necessary. What I'm going to do is I do want Mr. Fusion to have its own independent power plug. I don't want to daisy chain it with the other 4 wheels in case it weakens the power. And
Will you look at this twit? It was the drilling. I'm telling you, the drilling on the first DeLorean broke the car.
well, you know, everybody's a critic, right? I am proud of this little hole. I drilled it right next to the flux capacitor's tube, and I thought it came up pretty well. Folks, again and again, I can't tell you, I'm not making this up. Please have a hot gun right here. You can see this tough tube in here. It was super rigid, a little bit of hot air and low heat setting. It bends it, and the cool thing with this black tubing, it's like memory tubing. Once you mold it into place, it holds that shape. If you want your own hot gun and you want to support this channel, Amazon link in the description. So you can get your own hot gun. It's only like 20 bucks, I believe. Again, I'm constantly testing, making sure before I solder and glue or close everything, making sure that everything is working. And that was just me a little bit earlier there conducting the electrical test. Making sure that everything... Oh, shrink tubing. Make sure you have your shrink tubing. And you can see right there, I think it's a nice clean flush hole right there. It's right next to the main power source from the flux capacitor. Thing looks pretty good. All right, this is it. This is the big day. I applied some paint. I'm probably going to apply a little bit more paint to the struts to kind of cut down on the gloss on there. I'm going to keep the existing old 3000 Kelvin LEDs from the original wheels underneath the wells because I think it'll create a really cool look. You can see the USB cables. There's 2 plugs here, one for Mr. Fusion, and then the white one is for all of the 4 wheels. Now, there's a big benefit for the wheels to have its own external power source, and I'll explain. All right, let's plug this on here. And again, because I've USB hacked them, I can plug them into just a USB type outlet. I'm just using the battery for demonstration purposes. Mr. Fusion is all powered up, looking all sassy and fusion radiated blue, and a little bit of black light. You can kind of see the liquid glow in the dark resin that I added in the Mr. Fusion's cup on there. Doing some final checks and bells and whistles, double tapping it, and let's go into the future. Now, this vehicle is just beautiful. It's all about setting, it's all about lighting, and the DeLorean for me in hover mode, because this is out of all the 3 versions of the DeLorean, this is probably my all-time favorite, and it just comes alive when it's flying in the night or when it's just in the dark, seeing all the lights and seeing everything. And you can kind of see at the struts right there because I've blocked the light protruding vertically all the way up. To me, it has that cinematic look. I think it looks beautiful. And again, because Mr. Fusion's on its own separate power source, I can turn it off. I think it's just cool for photo opportunities, but Mr. Fusion does not have to be on all the time. But I just think it looks, for these nighttime shots, it looks pretty cool. And you can kind of see it's bleeding a little bit light. I need to go back and add some putty to kind of cut back on the bleeding. Now, this is what it looks like in the dark with the existing 3000 Kelvin lights underneath inside the wheel wells right there. Now, it doesn't look great from this angle. You can kind of, it tends to ruin the illusion, but when you look at it from overhead, it creates a really unique kind of science fiction Blade Runner-istic look, which I think is really, really cool, and I think it holds up really well in photos. I took a few photos, which I'll be uploading on my Instagram page, and it's really neat. Now, the advantage of having the hover lights, the 5-volt cob lights on their own separate power source, is that I can now create a look where the hover is on, right, and the back thrusters are not on. You have to remember, though, in the movie, the back thrusters aren't on all the time. It's usually used to push the vehicle, and there's multiple scenes where the thrusters are just turned off, and they're turned on, and they're throttled, and so forth, which I think is like, well, this is pretty neat. I am very happy with the spray paint of the kind of blocking the amount of light that's protruding from the top. I love the spotlights underneath. I think it's really neat. And it's okay. It doesn't bother me that there's light bleeding around the circular edges of the tire. I just think in my mind, there's just so much energy pulsating in these tires that it's doing its best to kind of throttle it. So this right here, this look is my favorite. With the time circuits on them and the thrusters on, it creates that Tokyo anime pop look, which is really cool. I think it's honestly pretty neat. Again, it's all about photos, is how you take it and so forth. You can really make it pop. The time circuits, and I just love it. To me, this vehicle just looks beautiful in the dark. Underneath it, you can kind of see the cob LEDs underneath the wheels. They're just bright. The camera is actually throttling the amount of luminosity that's coming out of these wheels, but I think it came out really well. I love it. I think it's beautiful. And again, with the time circuits on, right? And I can see folks in the community probably complaining about the wheel wells being lit up like that. I don't know if I'm sold on it, but it's an easy fix. It's a simple trim, and I can pop them out. I just think it creates another unique, different look. And the fact that I don't have to have them on, I can keep them on, or off, or trim them. My next couple projects on this, because this took about 2.5 days, is I do want to work on the thruster lights. I do want to make those brighter, and I do actually. You see how there's only 3 vents lit up? It should be all 4. So I need to figure out a way how to get all 4 vents. And the last probably modification on this would probably be a display. I want to create the illusion that it's always hovering. So that's probably going to be it. Just because I'm not a big fan of the acrylic stand that Hot Toys packed with it. No, not so much. But I would say the thruster lights. And the thruster lights are going to be on their own separate power source too. So there's going to be a lot of USB plugs coming out of this. Well, just one more. It'll just be for those thruster lights, and that's it. And then I need to figure out a display stand. I have some ideas. Like, subscribe, leave your comments below, and I hope you enjoyed this journey. DeLorean Mark II 2.0 unboxing. See ya, folks.